It's a high-powered one.
It's just a work light, Grandpa.
Huh?
I said it's just a work light, like you're going to work on your car,
Yeah?
but it does the job. It's cheap and it puts out nice light, so.
Yeah, I got one of them in the back of my car, but it don't work. I gotta fix it, repair it with it.
So let's do this. When we start rolling, Anthony, give your full name and then ask Mr. DeVivo his full name and his rank and duty station in the Army. And that'll begin the rolling of the interview, okay?
Okay.
Just hang on. When Anthony will nod and then you start rolling, okay?
Okay.
And Anthony, give your name and where you're from, and then ask him.
Do you want to say Bremerton, Washington,
Yes.
or Clahalia Secondary
Right.
School, or where?
Right. Just an official introduction, and shake his hand and begin the interview. Okay.
Would you like me to say the 4th?
Anthony, do whatever you feel right. Feels comfortable.
Are we good?
Say when, and you nod, and they will start
Okay.
the camera.
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. Okay, ready? Go.
Everybody ready?
Okay, hello, my name is Anthony Sendejas the 4th, and I'm from Clahalia Secondary School in Bremerton, Washington. Your name is?
Frank DeVivo.
And your military station, and where were you?
United States Army, Philippine Islands. 1940 to 44.
How and why did you join the military?
Well, at that time there were no jobs for us young fellas. I was working at a greenhouse for 10 cents an hour, and I knew I could make more in the Army than I could there. So I joined the Army. Another fella talked me into it. I wasn't quite ready to go, but I went with him anyhow.
Where did you join?
1940,
And where?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Did you leave any family behind?
Just my mom and dad.
What was life like in the Philippines before the Japanese invaded?
Just paradise. It's a paradise for a serviceman. It cost us $10 a month to have our bunks made, KP, laundry, and anything else that had to be done, cutting grass and stuff of that nature. We didn't have to do none of that. All we had to do was go to school and drill. Learn to be a soldier, I suppose. I didn't make a very good one, though.
What was your military duty in the Philippines?
Well, I worked on the railroad on Corregidor. I went through all my basic training first, and then things happened that they put me on the railroad, which I enjoyed that very much. Whole family, my dad was a railroad man, and I wanted to be one, so I became one, in and out of the service.
What was basic training like for you?
So what?
What was basic training like for you?
It was pretty nice. You had to do what the old man told you to do. You done it. We had our drill instructor was an ex-Marine, and he put you through the mill. He told you how to do it, and when to do it, and how much to do it. And when he jumped, you spoke, you jumped, and you'd say how high. He says as high as you can go. He was a good man. Unfortunately, he got killed in the second bombing raid.
Did you hear about the bombing on Pearl Harbor, and what were you thinking if you did?
We knew about that because they hit us at the same time. They hit our naval base in the Philippines at the same time. They pretty close, and only a different date, but see, we was over the international date line. It was a 7th in Pearl, and it was a 6th in the Philippines.
Could you describe your feelings during this time?
Well, I think we didn't really believe it until the bombs started dropping. Then we believed it. Everybody had to report to wherever you was at, you had to report to your base.
Could you describe the invasion?
The what?
Could you describe the invasion?
Well, I wasn't anywhere close to that. The only one I was invaded by was when it was on Corregidor. They came across in February of 1942. There's some of those dates I don't quite remember. I think it was May the 5th or the 6th of 42. They came across the bay with, Bataan had already surrendered. They had surrendered on the 9th of April, 1942. And they're going to take us. But they had a tough job. The first whack out of there, not a Japanese hit the island. The boats did, but they weren't on it. They were all dead. Then they backed off and come back again. The next time they come in at full force. Then Wainwright said, "Well, there'd been enough killing. I'm just going to have to surrender the island." Bataan was gone, and we was all there by ourselves. So he was the one that surrendered the island. I did not give up myself, and neither did none of my buddies. We didn't want to give up, because we had seen what the Japanese had done to a town in China called Pekin, where they had murdered 250, 300,000 people, men, women, and children. And we knew what was in store for us, and we weren't going to allow that. But he wouldn't allow us to keep on fighting. No, you got to lay down your arms at 12 o'clock noon, so that's what we had to do. And if you didn't lay it down, he had the right to shoot you. But he never did. He didn't shoot nobody I know of. If he did, they didn't get out. But we did not want to surrender, none of us. But you know, in the military, you got to follow orders. A general order, you got to follow it, or you get in trouble. Bad, bad trouble. That's about all I know about it.
Were you moved into the Melinta Tunnel, or did you?
I was through there several times in Melinta Tunnel. That was the hospital, where the hospital was in the headquarters. The only ones that was allowed in there were the medical people and the headquarters people. You weren't allowed in. Nobody else was allowed in there for afraid of saboteurs, I suppose. I don't know what their goofy idea was. But there's several laterals there on the tunnel. Most of it was taken up for the hospital part of it.
What were your thoughts after Bataan surrendered?
I really couldn't tell you. I knew they were going to come after us, and we're going to do the best we can to stop them. But it didn't work.
How were you surrendered?
By the orders of General Wainwright. There's a general order that for all guns and ammunition will be destroyed at 12 o'clock noon, May the 6th, 1942. That was a general order from him.
Where were you taken from that point?
Well, I was taken to a place called P.O.W. That's on the mainland. Then from P.O.W. we marched down Dewey Boulevard to get on trains to go to Cabana de Juan. What they done to us between there and there was something else. They made us take our shoes off, go barefooted on Dewey Boulevard, blacktop, and at high noon you can imagine how hot that baby was. A lot of guys got burnt feet. They wanted to make it as miserable for us as they possibly could. They wanted to prove to themselves that they could whip us, but we knew better.
Could you describe?
They might have whipped us physically, but mentally they didn't do it.
Could you describe the conditions in P.O.W.?
Well, we didn't do nothing in P.O.W. at all. We just stayed inside. That P.O.W. was a prison, just like San Quentin or any of the other penitentiaries in this country. That was a Filipino prison. It even had the electric chair set up in there, but it wasn't connected up. They disconnected it for fear we might execute somebody. I don't know what their idea was, and I really didn't care. All I wanted to do was get out there and go home, but that wasn't possible.
Could you describe the trains?
Well, that's a pretty bad thing. They put us in cattle cars. The only way you find out if anybody died is when they unloaded you when you got to Cabana de Juan. And we lost probably, on the march from P.O.W to the train station, we probably lost 8 or 9 of them that had been executed because they fell out. They couldn't take the heat. And after they got to Cabana de Juan, they unloaded us. Then they found there was more of them died from suffocation inside of this train. See, we weren't in too good a shape. It wasn't the Japanese fault that we were sick. We just didn't have no food. We had no ammunition. We was up against a rock and a hard place.
What kind of military equipment did you have before?
World War I equipment.
What was that like for you?
Well, for what I could read prior to the war, that some of that good stuff that came out, we never saw none of it, like the M1. We had, the closest thing we had was what they call a pom-pom gun. That's the Navy. That's come up with Navy destroyer. That's the most modern part of it we had, 37 millimeter. That's the biggest we had at that time outside of the big stuff. We had 12-inch and 155 millimeters. But they fell silent after a while because they had nothing to shoot out of the end of them. It was all gone.
Could you describe Cabana de Juan?
Cabana de Juan? Well, it wasn't no luxury camp. You had to work every day out in the garden. Yeah, we had a big farm there, a pretty good sized farm. Besides other stuff that had to be done on the inside of the. Then we went on wood details, cutting wood, working in rice paddies. Then they took a bunch of the guys out to go to Japan to work on different details, work slave labor camps. I finally got out of there when I went to Las Piñas. That's outside of Manila, probably 60, 70 miles, building an airfield for the Imperial Navy.
What did you do in Cabana de Juan?
Worked on the farm. Most of the time I had to work on a farm. Dig ditches, dig latrines, whatever it had to be done, we done it.
So where were you moved to after Cabana de Juan?
Huh?
Where were you moved to after Cabana de Juan?
Went to Las Piñas on a work detail.
And where is that?
Las Piñas, it's up close to Manila there somewhere. Where I don't know, the Filipinos know where it was, but I don't.
So what was your work detail?
Building an airfield for the Imperial Navy, Japanese Navy. They almost got one runway done, and they worked on it for over 2 years. They only got one runway done. Everything we done, we'd sabotage as much as we possibly could without getting away with it. And they weren't smart enough to know we were sabotaging them.
Could you describe some of the sabotages that you did?
Well, where you're supposed to fill, we dug out. And where we're supposed to fill in, we dug it out. And it just delayed them because they finally caught, hey, this is too deep, we got to fill this back in. So all this dirt we dug out, we had to put it back in there. Every time we had to move, we done something we weren't supposed to. According to us guys, we didn't care what they done to us. We was at the point then that she was all over with for us guys. We'd already lost so many guys that another one ain't gonna make no difference, I guess.
Could you describe any friendships you had during this time?
With your American boys or the Japanese?
The Americans.
Well, most all your military people are buddies. They're all the same. They just one for one and one for all. They help each other. That's all I can tell you.
Who's Butler?
Who?
Butler.
Oh, Eugene Butler. He became a Catholic. His parents hated Catholics, and he wanted to become one. So give him instructions to it. And I talked to him a few years ago. He works in Cape Canaveral, the Kennedy Space Center. He couldn't tell you too much about it because it's all secret. I was hoping he might be here, but he might be dead by now. I don't know. I've lost contact with a lot of them, 2 or 3 of them guys that I knew quite well. There's 3 brothers that went with me, and my other brother, there's 8 of us fellows from Council Bluffs, Iowa that enlisted in 1940, and I'm the only one that managed to come home, which I think about that quite often. Why didn't they get to come home? I made it, why didn't they, you know? But there's nothing I can do about that.
How did you keep on going?
Belief in God, and I was determined that I was going to make it home, one way or another. I couldn't escape because I couldn't go no place. I suppose if I could have got up into China, I would have tried to get away and get to Mashitong, but we didn't go to China. We went straight to Japan. Well, we went to Formosa first. That was Taiwan now. Formosa then.
So were you on a hell ship?
If you called the Banjo Maru, I don't know the right name for it, but we called it the Banjo Maru.
So before you were put onto a hell ship, did you know what it was? Were there any rumors?
I had no idea. All I know that we were supposed to be executed, and that's all I know. That was a rumor going around that was going to be taken away to be executed.
Could you describe the trip on the hell ship?
Yeah, well, we was riding a coal. It was really a coal barge, a coal ship that handled coal wherever they went. I don't know. Whatever the Maru business did, that's what they done. They hauled coal in that thing. We laid on the shellac. I can't tell you how many was in that hole. I know there was 25 or 30 of them dead after they unloaded us in Taiwan. Died from exhaustion, starvation, whatever. Whatever killed them, I don't know. We stayed there in Taiwan, Formosa, for I think about a month. Then they loaded us back on a transport to head for Japan.
So what was it like to be inside of a hell ship?
Terrible. No food, no water. No toilet facilities. Things of that nature. I don't remember ever getting a canteen of water on that sucker all the time I was on there.
Were you only on one hell ship, or were you transferred?
Well, the first one was from Manila to Taiwan. We left Manila sometime in October of '44 with 38 or 39 ships in a convoy and three boatloads of prisoners of war. We lost 2 of them from a wolf pack of submarines somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean or the South China Sea, somewhere in that area. They said there was a torpedo went across our bow, one across our stern, and never hit our ship at all. But one later, the Army Air Force brought the B-24s and B-25s in there and bombed what was left of the convoy. And what was left of it, they made a run for Taiwan, Formosa. We made it that far. And then when we went into this big, it's like Frisco Bay. There were no boats in there at all. But when we come out of there, when the Japanese are taking us out of there to go to Japan, that place was loaded with boats where the American bombers that hit them. So we missed a good bombing raid there. I guess that port area where they just left the Philippines, they got bombed there too. But I didn't know for sure on that one. But the one in Taiwan I do know about. Then after we got to Japan, they put us in the warehouses. We stayed there for 2 nights, 3 days. Then they moved us out the next day, and the next day after that, the big B-29s hit that place and just leveled it. We were already up in a place called Kosaka. That's where the copper smelters. melting little rocks, big rocks out of little rocks to make ammunition for the Japanese Navy, or the military, whoever they were. I don't know who they were. They were a bunch of mean ones too. We had one guard. His name was Okinoki or something similar to that. That is what we called him. I can't tell you what we called him. It's not proper. He beat the heck out of me a couple of times. He didn't hurt me. He hurt me, but I said he didn't hurt me. I was beat up pretty bad when they liberated the camp. They took us out of there and took us down to Sendai, and the Navy took us there from there on. As soon as I went aboard this Navy USS Jared, I was there about 2 hours, and the doctor took a look at me and said, "You're going to the hospital ship." So they loaded me on a cruiser, and away I went to the hospital ship. Me and about 4 other guys. They wanted to get us there before we croaked, I suppose. I don't know. I was determined I wasn't going to die in that place.
Why did you think you were treated poorly and cruelly?
We were treated pretty bad. Imagine yourself eating a cup of rice a day. That's all you had. Just imagine that. How much could you stand? A lot of us just pure determination. You were determined to go home, and you're going to do it regardless of what happened.
Could you tell me about slave labor?
Well, I don't know whether you could call it slave labor or not. We worked from daybreak to dawn, way after dark, many a day. Wherever our Navy made a impression on them, like Japanese losing a bunch of ships, or our Marines taking an island, we paid for it. Well, they'd be cruel to us because they retaliate because they lost that island. Yeah, I don't know. That's the way we figured anyhow, that every time, they talk about, what's her name, Tokyo Rose? Mm-hmm. She told us more about what was going on in the war than anybody would ever imagine. She told exactly where our boys were at. Like say, she'd say, "Oh, you fellas on Iwo Jima." Of course, we didn't know where the hell Iwo Jima was. We didn't care. You're not going to live to get off of there. Well, some of the people who knew about that says, "Boy, they're coming close." They weren't too far away, but they weren't close enough for us.
Being bombed by American soldiers, what was that like for you?
Well, I'll tell you, when we loaded on the train there in Tokyo, that night Tokyo was ablaze. You could see the smile on them guys' face. Give it to them, Uncle. We weren't scared. We weren't scared of those bombers. We were the Japanese, but not the Americans. And I can't understand why. We'd march right down that doggone thing with them bombs dropping everywhere in that railroad yards. Didn't seem to shake, didn't seem to faze us guys a bit. Because we knew Uncle Sam wasn't very far off. But he's a little further than he should have been, but I was hoping he'd be a little closer, but he wasn't. 36,000 feet maybe, as close as he got to get to us until in surrender. We could see those big 29s fly over going to Tokyo almost every morning at about 3 o'clock. We'd be up, get ready to go to work down the smelters. Them big old bombers going across, it looked like sharks going through the air. Well, Tokyo gets hell today. We liked that. We knew every bomb that dropped was closer to getting home. But we didn't know about the big one until after the war was completely over and the surrender was all done. We didn't know anything about it. I know the one they dropped in Nagasaki was the last A-bomb they dropped. We were only 60 kilometers from that. And when we were going to work, we could see up in the mountains like pretty rainbows. We thought there was a storm up there. Well, that's when they dropped the big one on Nagasaki. That's the one that turned the tide for them. The next day, there were no guards around our camp, nothing. Everybody was gone. The Japanese officers were all gone. Why, I don't know. We knew something was up. We didn't know what, though, you know. They never told us guys nothing. Of course, a lot of rumors would fly. They called it scuttlebutt in the military. But we found out later that when the Americans dropped some supplies to us, we knew something had happened that we didn't know anything about. But we didn't know that they'd already put troops into Japan. Why, they kept us in that camp from the 14th of August till the 12th or 13th of September before they decided to move us. I have no idea why they did that to us. And a few other things, what they done, I don't understand.
Could you describe your liberation?
Well, I thought when they loaded us on that train there in Las Piñas, or in Kosaka, to go to wherever they were going to go to Sendai, I guess. That's where we were going to meet our death, I guess. That's what we thought. But when we saw the American flag there, we knew things was different. See, they never explained nothing to us guys. They just kept you in limbo. Let you ride the scuttlebutt out.
So, could you describe some of the rumors? Could you tell me some of the rumors that were going around during the time?
Oh, gosh. Well, Americans are coming. Americans are coming. Yeah, they're coming all right. Don't know when, but where. And they'd say, well, they've already landed here or there. There was no truth in it. It was just all scuttlebutt.
So you didn't believe any of them?
I never believed nothing.
Until you
I don't believe nothing unless I see it myself. I still don't.
So, how did you react to being rescued?
I can't really tell you. I wasn't overjoyed. I was skeptical. I wasn't sure what was going on, whether it was a trick or not, because the Japanese are good at making tricks, doing tricks. Awful good at camouflaging tricks. I didn't believe I was free till I got aboard that hospital ship on my way back to the States. Of course, I wasn't in too good a shape anyhow, but I really didn't care whether school kept or not. I was so bad off. I got good treatment on the naval hospital ship. They were really good to me. Not only me, but all the sick people aboard.
Did you put on a lot of weight?
No. I didn't put on a lot of weight for quite a little while.
How much did you lose?
Well, according to the Navy nurses and the Navy doctors, when they took me aboard, they weighed me and the stretcher together, and then they took and weighed the stretcher after they'd taken me and put me to bed. We got it down to around 87, 88 pounds in that neighborhood. When the time I get to the States, I had come up to almost to 100 pounds. Of course, I ate a lot of bread and milk. They wouldn't give me nothing else. They was afraid my stomach wouldn't handle it. Told that one nurse, I said, let me worry about that. Well, I can't do that, she said. I got to go by order, so okay. I expected that.
When did you return home?
When I get back to the States, and it was in the latter part of, it took us 17 days from Yokohama to Frisco. I'm trying to think. Was it in October? Latter part of October, early part of November when I got back to my home in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Hadn't snowed yet.
You went to Ship General, where's that?
General Hospital.
General Hospital. Where'd you go?
Chick, oh, that, they never took me to Chick General Hospital. I went straight from the boat, from the hospital ship to the aircraft, over to Marshfield, and straight to Moline, Illinois.
How were you received back home?
I don't really know. I'm just like any other wounded soldier, I suppose. I got no special treatment. As a matter of fact, I didn't want any special treatment. I'm no better than nobody else laying in that bunk. He might have done more than I did. I didn't do nothing. I just got sick over being underweight and overworked and all kinds of stuff like that, not from battle fatigue.
What did you do after military? What was your life?
Well, I went to work on the railroad for that still in the Army yet. Me and my wife's brother went to work on the mail at Christmas time. Then I went to Fort Sam Houston, got discharged right this old town right here. And that was in March or April, I don't remember now. Dates slipped my mind. It's hard to remember 70 years ago or so. So many gallons of water had went under the bridge. You try to forget some of that stuff. A lot of it you can, a lot of it you can't. But the only thing I remember is the bad stuff. And that I don't like to talk about. Of course, people don't believe you anyhow what the Japanese had done. They asked me how things were going. I said, well, every Saturday night we got a geisha girl and a steak for supper. Well, they knew I was lying. Well, that's all right. Just well tell a big lie is a little lie, I guess.
How do you want to be remembered?
As a good father. I don't want to be no hero. I'm no hero. The heroes are the ones that have to cross over their grave. They're the heroes, not me. The guys that give their lives, they're the heroes, not us live ones. Oh, they could say we're heroes, but I'm not a hero. I just done what I had to do and no regrets of what I had to do. Oh, sometimes I think about what I've done that I shouldn't have done, but I don't talk about it. The Japanese did some bad stuff, so did we. We did the same thing. Anything is good in love and war, you know. So they say, I don't know. All I can say is thank God I'm home. I got a good family. That's the only thing I'm interested in. Everything else is minor. My family's number one. That's about it.
What message do you have for future generations?
Do it.
What message do you have for future generations?
Believe in your country. Believe in God in your country, in your family, and everything will be all right. And make sure you don't become a prisoner of war, for crying out loud. Don't never do that. That's the worst thing that can happen to you.
Thank you, Mr. DeVivo.
Okay, partner.
He did just a good story, so when they went to the mic's off,
Yeah.
when they went up to liberate him up in northern Japan, well, this the ship, the Garrett. Anyway, they said, this one sailor says, why do you POWs from Iowa? And here was one from our hometown. And so, tell them about that. Well, then he took, well, he was only on that ship and did so many hours because he was so bad. But this kid gave him candy, chocolate bars, everything that they shouldn't have had. And anyway, so we kept in contact with them. We had friends all through the years, and then he's since passed away. But he could tell you about it. He could. But I have a lot of stuff I'm going to send to you. Thank you. Because he does tell everything. But he kind of took over and, took him just for that many hours. Then they put him on the hospital ship, and then they took him on the ship, the ones that were that worst off. They didn't fly him. They took him there, and all the nurses on there took care of him. How many days did it take you to get there? To San Francisco?
17 days.
And then they put him on a hospital ship and flew him to Moline, Illinois, and took him to Schick General Hospital, Frank, in Clinton, Iowa.
Yeah, Schick General Clinton.
He was in there for about a month, and then they took him, they gave him a 90-day convalescent leave, and then he, okay, so then he had his orders to go get discharged. He had to come from Council Bluffs clear down here to Fort Sam Houston to get discharged. So we decided to come and get married on the way. in Kansas City, we stopped got married on the way. Oh. And so it's been 63 years that we had. But he's the only one, like the POWs around Omaha and Council Bluffs is still alive. And we got pictures of all of them. But he's been in a lot. He's had a lot of write-ups in the paper and on television. They have tried to get him, and he's just been good. But he will not tip. I've heard about. Well, I didn't really know too much about it until 1976. He never talked about it. Kids never knew anything about it. Their dad was POW.
Can we get a family picture with Anthony and the boys?
Sure.
All of you?
Deadly reply here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Sergeant Major Mike Dudley, U.S. Army retired, who will now take over the proceedings, and we'll start with the presentations. Mike, thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm Sergeant Major, Army Sergeant Major retired Mike Dudley, Veterans Outreach and Events Associate with the United States Army Freedom Team Salute Program in Washington, D.C. I think most of you have seen our display in the other room down at the end of the hallway. We've been here all week. And by explanation, this program, the Freedom Team Salute Program, was initiated in May of 2005 by then Secretary of the Army Francis Harvey and Army Chief of Staff Peter Schoonmaker as a way to say thank you to every Army veteran for his or her service, regardless of when that service was performed or what that service was. And the basic premise is to ensure that no Army veteran service is ever ignored or forgotten. It recognizes the essential bond that Army veterans have with the United States Army, with our families, Army families, and the Army community. And it gives all active duty soldiers the opportunity to thank their spouses, their parents, and if they're National Guard or Reserve soldiers, it gives those active duty soldiers the opportunity to thank their civilian employers for their support while that soldier or soldiers are on active duty. Additionally, anyone can recognize any honorably discharged Army veteran for his or her service. And other Army supporters are also eligible to be recognized, whether it's a one-time effort or if it's an ongoing support of the Army mission. Each Freedom Team Salute recipient receives a packet that has a certificate of appreciation and a letter of thanks signed by both the Secretary of the Army and the Army Chief of Staff. The recipient also receives an Army lapel pin that we hope he or she will wear with extreme pride every day of their lives. If you'd like to recognize an Army veteran for his or her service, it's very easy. This is a fully funded Army program. The Army believes like you cannot understand how much the Army believes in this program. It's fully funded and there is no cost to anyone to participate. It's very easy. If you have the name and address of an Army veteran, go to our website, freedomteamsalute.com. Follow the Honor Someone prompt, enter the information, and we take care of the rest. It takes about 3 or 4 weeks for the commendations to arrive in the mail. Again, this is for any discharged Army veteran, Army spouse or child, or Army supporter. Officers are okay. Who said that? Well, I'm proud to say that at this point, the Freedom Team Salute organization has recognized, commended, and honored the service of more than 2 million Army veterans and Army supporters. And joining me today for the presentation of the Freedom Team Salute commendations is Sergeant Major Joanne Schneider, United States Army Reserve, former Deputy Director of Soldier Outreach for Freedom Team Salute. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Major Schneider. On April 12, 1942, in the early stages of World War II, 10,000 American troops surrendered to the Japanese Army on the Bataan Peninsula in the Philippines. This is a story that all of you know very, very well. These Americans faced struggles, life and death, and unending stress that they thought would be with them for the rest of their lives. But as you can see, these individuals have returned home to loving families who have helped them every step of the way. Their resilience in defeat and in captivity is a true record of the valor that they will always be remembered for. Today, on behalf of the Secretary of the Army and the Army Chief of Staff, it is our honor to formally present Freedom Team Salute commendations to the American defenders of Bataan and Corregidor, a group of people that embodies the American spirit and the strength of will that personifies their dedication and patriotism for the United States of America. The Army Veteran Commendation reads, "The Freedom Team Salute Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to the following individuals for their outstanding service to the nation as United States Army soldiers. You are being recognized for your patriotism and continued support of the Army family. Your legacy is today's Army and the values that soldiers exhibit as they stand in defense of freedom and our country around the world. Their efforts are a direct reflection of your service, and the United States Army and a grateful nation thank you." Signed, George W. Casey, Jr., General, United States Army, Chief of Staff, and Pete Guerin, Secretary of the Army. And now I'll call the individual names as they receive their Freedom Team Salute commendations from the Secretary of the Army. A.B. Abraham. Joseph L. Alexander. Harold M. Amos. Harold Bergbauer. James H. Bogart. James Day Bullock. Herschel C. Boucher. William R. Brenner. Lucian V. Campo. What's the next one? Henry J. Cornelison. Mauro B. Corral. Frank H. DeVivo. The Angel of Bataan, Florimond A. Difford. Warren G. Elder. William L. Eldridge. Albert O. Felson. Cecil L. Forinash. Roy Edward Fries. Robert B. Heer. Edward Jackford. Erwin R. Johnson. James W. Johnson. Warren Ledbetter. Oscar L. Leonard. Ralph Levenberg. Francis J. Macy. I don't believe the next three gentlemen are with us. Robert R. Martindale, Norman R. Matthews, and Thurman R. Matthews. And Walter Middleton. Wayne Miller. Those who did not receive Freedom Team Salute packets this morning, rest assured, we will take care of you. Freedom Team Salute is proud to recognize the selfless commitment and sacrifices made by these members of the American Defenders of Bataan and Corregidor. Please join me in a standing ovation and a big round of applause for these great Americans. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our Freedom Team Salute ceremony this morning. Please visit our website at freedomteamsalute.com and honor an Army veteran or supporter today. It only takes a minute or two, but the honor will last for a lifetime. On behalf of the Secretary of the Army, Pete Guerin, the Army Chief of Staff, General George W. Casey, Jr., and Sergeant Major Joanne Schneider, I am Army Sergeant Major Retired Mike Dudley saying thank you and Army Strong.
Okay, we have somebody's glasses up here in front.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Commander of the American Defender Bataan and Corregidor, I want you to know that today is the culmination of 64 years of work. It began on April 9th of 1942, when General King surrendered all the forces on Bataan. And then on May 6th, when General Wainwright surrendered all the forces on Corregidor and on all the islands of the Pacific. In addition to those, of course, it was those many men lost at sea during that period of time, and those in Guam, and certainly Wake Island. So all these POWs have tried for years for only one thing. Then we had our trip to Japan on a freighter that was not marked with POW markings. We've remembered all those things. We have tried when we got home, seriously, to ask our State Department for help. The help we wanted was just for justice. In 1999, we tried a lawsuit. The State Department was the only witness against us. We had promises from congressmen and senators all along the way. Tell us what you want, we'll try. But nothing was done. And then, on November 11th, 2008, I had the privilege of being invited to the ambassador's residence in Washington, D.C. My wife and I arrived, two very hospitable people. The question they raised to me was, what is it you POWs want? I explained the three things we wanted at that time. Number one, we wanted an apology from those companies who abused us, that we had to work for. Number two, I felt that we were entitled to be a part of the Peace and Friendship Exchange Initiative. And thirdly, I said we want an apology from the Japanese government for the mistreatment of all the POWs, no matter where we were captured, of how we were treated by the Japanese military. Our guest today said to me, tell me what you want and I will do my best to get it. I have been in direct correspondence up until this time with our guest. The correspondence ended just 3 days ago when he said, I'd be happy to be able to come to your convention and relay the words that I gave you in your letters. And that was because I said to him, to our ambassador, as many of our members said that they want to hear it from the people in Japan personally. They're not interested in the letter. They want to hear it. And because of that, I must tell you that I found in my heart a song that was written not too long ago that tells our story perfectly. It was in the Man of La Mancha, to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is our quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, the fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And we know, it will only be true to the glorious quest, that our hearts will lie peaceful and calm when we're laid to our rest. And the world will be better for this, that we, or one man scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. And that's our story. And with that in mind, I would like to it is truly my privilege to introduce the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Japan to the United States of America, His Honor Inshiro Fujisaki. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much. I'm very grateful for the very kind invitation I received. It is a great honor to participate in your final convention. I arrived here in the United States just 1 year ago as ambassador of Japan. 5 months later, in November, 18th of November, Dr. Tenney and Mrs. Tenney, as just stated, has visited us, myself and my wife, in my residence. Dr. Tenney told me of experiences and feelings of former prisoners of war. I renewed my understanding of the issue. I promised him that I would communicate what we have discussed to my home government. Since then, we have exchanged several letters. Today, I would like to convey to you the position of the government of Japan on this issue. As former prime ministers of Japan have repeatedly stated, the Japanese people should bear in mind that we must look into the past and to learn from the lessons of history. We extend a heartfelt apology for our country having caused tremendous damage and suffering to many people, including prisoners of war, those who have undergone tragic experiences in the Bataan Peninsula and Corregidor Island in the Philippines and other places. Ladies and gentlemen, taking this opportunity, I would like to express my deepest condolence to all those who have lost their lives in the war and after the war, and their family members. As for the peace program, just Dr. Tenny referred, I have told him that I cannot make a definite statement at this juncture if we can expand this program. However, I can convey to you that relevant bureau in the government of Japan is working seriously and sincerely on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, World War should not be repeated. Sufferings of many people, including prisoners of war, should not be repeated. Today, Japan and the United States are the closest friends, best allies. But we should always keep in our mind that this good relations is based on our past experiences and efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, we are committed to carry on the torch of our future to our future generations of this excellent and irreplaceable friendship and relations. I thank you very much for this occasion.
I just bowed to the ambassador out of respect to him and to his country. I remember years ago when I bowed to the Japanese, it was strictly out of fear. I'm glad that this changed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming, and the ambassador is going to be here for a few hours before he has another plane to catch. I thank him very, very much from all of us. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Are we ready?
Almost. Want to test?
No, I'm just asking you to line up the frame. Is everything okay?
Well, if you can lower yourself just maybe 2 inches. Yeah, that's your about, yes. That's good. Get a little more in the shot.
Okay.
No, okay, stay natural.
All right, that's good.
Okay,
Let's see.
tell me when you're ready.
If you can, when we talk, don't turn your face towards me. Just turn your eyes towards me. That way the camera will still see you.
Oh, okay.
Little movie star thing there.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay.
I ain't no movie star.
Okay. Roll.
Rolling.
Action. Mr. DeVivo.
Yes.
Honor to meet you. You can turn your head towards me a little bit. That's good. Mr. DeVivo, honor to meet you. You've just received a formal apology for the atrocities that you endured and that your comrades endured from the ambassador of Japan. You've just received apologies from the ambassador of Japan for the atrocities in World War II that you suffered and your comrades suffered. How do you feel about it?
Well, I've waited 60-some years to hear that one. And finally came. I'll accept his apology. I have no hatred for nobody. I mean, they done a job, we done a job, you know. I know there's a lot of bad things that they've done to people, not only the soldiers, but the civilians and the Filipinos. They were pretty bad, pretty bad. I can't speak for the Filipinos. I only speak for myself and my comrades. They beat me a few times.
Let me ask you this. Do you trust that let me ask you this. Do you trust that the apology from the Japanese government is sincere?
Do I have to answer that one?
I'm curious.
I think it is from his side of it. I think so. I think so. See, my brother married a little Japanese girl, and she was a nice little girl, and she didn't like the Japanese either. So, I don't know. I think he was sincere. I really do.
Great. Let's talk about before the war. I was told that you were the cable car operator on the island of Corregidor that's been called the Rock.
Yeah, that's right. I run the streetcar there on Corregidor. That was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. Up to the point when I got home, I went back to work on the railroads. Oh, that was great. It took me an hour to go from top side to bottom side. Round trip, 7 miles.
Did it run on coal?
No, it was electric. Just the same as a streetcar. Just like you run a streetcar, you know, it's all electrical motors. No, they had diesel there, but the diesel engine couldn't climb the hill. It was too steep for it. They tried it, but it didn't work.
Were the passengers all military?
No, we had civilians could ride it too, because they had a lot of Filipino civilians there. That little barrio at bottom side, that guys that could go down. After 12 o'clock, you could go down to barrio and buy stuff, whatever you wanted to buy, if you wanted to. You could go swimming, go play ball. Good. I like to work out in my gym myself. I didn't care much for that sun.
Let me ask you this. Was General MacArthur there when you were there?
Yes, he was in Manila. He never came over to the Rock until after the war, after he declared Manila an open city. Then he came to the Rock.
Do you remember seeing him?
Oh, sure, many times during the day.
Tell me about it.
I think he was a great man myself. A lot of people don't like him, but I did. He was a very, very sincere military strategist. And of course, a lot of the guys said he was yellow when he left. No, he didn't, because he was ordered out by the President of the United States. And when the old man orders you out, you go, you know.
Yes, sir. Let me ask you about your time as a prisoner of war. What stands out in your mind? A story you want to tell?
Well, so many things happened. I couldn't pick out any one thing. If you told the mark, they didn't beat on you. You do what they wanted you to do. You done it. They wouldn't smack you around. If you got a little unruly, well, as they would say, we'll spank you. Well, their spanking was a lot worse than the young man's.
That's what they said? That's what they said?
Yep. You are, General Yamashita, after the surrender, says you are not prisoners of war. You are guests of the Emperor of Japan, then he'd bow. That's the way they do things, you know. They really respected that man. I had no respect for him, but...
Did you ever see him?
Never saw Hirohito, only in a picture.
What about Yamashita?
Yamashita was a stocky man. He was cruel in one way and kind in another. You didn't know which way he was going to go.
Did you ever see him personally?
A couple of times, and that was all.
When was that? When you were at the camp?
Right after the surrender of Corregidor. He made his inspection. He'd go over and look the troops over, I guess. I don't know what he'd go over there for.
Yes, sir. Do you have any buddies here today?
None that I know of. Some that said they were in my company, but I didn't remember them. See, working on that railroad, I wasn't in the gun batteries anymore. Most of these guys are all still in the gun battery. When I worked the railroads, I didn't have time to go to the gun batteries.
You're here with your large family from the Midwest and...
From the good old state of Iowa.
From Iowa?
Iowa. Tall corn.
How do you feel about all your family members turning out for this reunion?
Great. They're not all here, but they're great.
All these family members?
All these are, they're the best.
And your generation has been called the greatest generation by Tom Brokaw in his book, The Greatest Generation, and that's kind of become part of the English language. Your generation is known as the greatest generation.
Well, I think, my own personal opinion, in them days, we had patriotism. What's lacking in this country? Very bad. There's no patriotism in this country whatsoever anymore. The guys are afraid to get in the military because they might have to go fight somewhere. If you love this country, doggone it, join the military and protect it.
What about the guys who are fighting? What about the guys and women who are fighting in Afghanistan?
I love them. I love them. They're good. Good people.
Yes, they are.
I feel sorry for them.
Why's that?
Because I know they're going through what we had to go through. But I hope that none of them get taken prisoner, because they do, they're going to be worse off than we ever was. Those Arabs will do some bad stuff to them.
Yes, sir. One moment. Sylvie, anything?
That's okay. Ask him after when he was released, if he stayed there, if he re-enlisted, or
Yeah.
what was it?
When you got out of the, I'm sorry, when you were liberated and you came back to the U.S., tell me about where you had to pick up your life. Did you already have a high school diploma?
No, I got out of graduated out of the 8th grade and went right into the CCCs, which I credit the CCCs that carried me through that prison camp. That was a soil conservation that's put in by President Roosevelt for the young people that didn't have a job.
How did it help you in the prison camp?
Discipline, I believe. I believe it was a discipline. And your faith in the good Lord, too, had a lot to do with that.
Yes, sir. Did you go back to school when you got back from the war?
No, I got married and went to work on the railroad and got my family. That's the most important thing in my life.
Yes, sir. So you spent your career in the railroad?
Oh, you bet. 36 years, I think. 36 years, and I retired 30 years ago. Almost 30 years. The 29th of August will be 30 years.
Which railroad company?
Union Pacific, the greatest in the country.
Yes, sir. What did you do there?
I was a car checker. Then the latter part of my career on the railroad, I had to go into the accounting department. That was inside work, and I hated it with a passion. Because I've always been outside all my life, and that's what I enjoy, the outside work.
Go ahead.
Inside work, I'm not much at that.
When did you get married?
February 18th, 1946, in Kansas, and we came to San Antonio because I was going to get discharged at Fort Sam Houston. Came here in 1946. That's on our honeymoon.
Really?
Yeah. 1946.
What was your wife's name?
Mine?
Yes, what was your wife's name?
Doris M. Ellis.
And where did you meet her?
Well, we've known each other for many, many years. She was
in Iowa?
Yeah. Oh yeah, same neighborhood. She was 13 when I left, and I was 18.
So did you come home from the war and marry your high school sweetheart?
Well, I didn't go to high school with her, but I'd known her for years. A little kid like this, you know. And then she grew up.
Yes, sir. And how many children did you have with her?
4. 2 boys, 2 girls.
And now how many grandkids and
I got
grandkids?
10 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. 4 girls and 1 boy. And one of the two of them are here. And you get 2 of my little great-granddaughters are here. My little great-grandson, he's here. He's 10 years old now.
You mentioned your faith in the Lord. Do you have anything to say about that? A favorite scripture?
No, well, see, I'm a staunch Catholic.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. And it helped you in your time as a prisoner of war?
Oh, you betcha. Oh, sure, I'm sure it did. But like they say, there's no atheist in a foxhole. Of course, I never was an atheist, but if that's the way they believe, that's their business, none of mine.
Great. Well, we're going to talk to everybody in the family now. Wait, we got one more question.
The circumstances of his liberation, and if Hal was there when he was liberated.
You know, what I'd like to know is...
Hal was in Mukden.
Oh, yeah.
Mukden's in Manchuria.
Okay.
Yes.
I lost a good friend there that went over with me at the same time. See, there was 8 of us young fellows that enlisted together. We rode the train to Frisco together. We rode the boat to the Philippines together. We done our basic training together. We fought the Japanese together. Spent time in a prison camp. Then when they went out of Cabanatuan, Earl, the one that died in Manchuria, he was 10 years older than I was. He died up in Manchuria. They took him. I got an idea that Japanese doctor up there done some dirty stuff to them guys that were prisoners up there, experimental stuff. He got pneumonia and passed away.
I have a question. The 8 guys you enlisted with from your town in Iowa, how many made it back?
Nobody but me. I'm the only one.
Wow.
I feel bad about that.
Ask him how he enlisted.
When did you enlist and what were the circumstances?
Well, you know, in those days, it was right in the heart of the Depression. There were no jobs. I was working at a greenhouse for 10 cents an hour, 10 hours a day, and I said, I can make more money than that in the military. So I joined the military.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go and have the family gather. We're going to go and have the family gather back around you now. May I shake your hand?
Sure.
Thank you so much for your sacrifice, your service, and everything you went through and fighting for our country and our freedom.
Well, I'd do it again if I had to.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Cut.
You're entirely welcome.
Thank you.
It's an honor meeting you, and thank you so much for your service with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We really do appreciate it, and we're going to keep the word going on that.
It's my pleasure.
Yes.
I'd do it again if I had to.
Yeah, I know. That's why you're called the greatest generation.
I think so.
Yes. Yes, it's an honor.
We love our country.
Come on, honey. Get over here.
Where's